It is through getting real with oneself and creating space for a shift in perspective to occur that brings us home to ourselves, where we realize that all of who we are is welcome.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, joining me on the podcast, taking time out of your very busy schedule to be here with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. I've been kind of keeping up with your episodes and stuff, and I'm just really excited to be here and so happy that you are able to have this experience for yourself and just, you said you were going to do a podcast. You just went straight through with it and you've been crushing it since. So congratulations to you and thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Thank you. The honor is also mine. Yeah, it feels surreal to have you here. Before I go down a rabbit hole though, do you mind just introducing yourself for
Sure,
whoever's
of
listening or
course.
watching? Let us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So my name is Chastity. I am originally from New Jersey, a Jersey girl. Um, and honestly, I am a liver. I have just been flowing with life and doing what comes naturally to me.
Mm,
I feel like, you know, um, there's just so many opportunities and avenues we can go, but the beauty in just experiencing everything, not many people will do it.
mhm,
But I think that my soul is just open to whatever comes my way. And, I've been doing art, I've been doing real estate, I've just been jumping around here and there and trying to get my hands into everything. So I think right now, I'm just here and in flow with life and just doing everything I can to keep myself happy, keep the people around
mhm,
me, flowing and going and supporting people in any way that I can. I have a lot of big things that I want to do and accomplish, and they are in store and moving along. And yeah,
mm. That's so beautiful. I love that you said that you're a liver, which is just funny, right? Because then I think of liver in the body,
yeah, I
but
thought of actual liver too for a second.
no, but
That's a-
it's funny. It gives some comedic relief. But I love that answer because I feel like when I ask this question, people are like,
It's
like, what do
daunting.
I
It's a
even say?
daunting question. Like,
Yeah,
what do I say
yeah,
and how do I want everybody to look at me? And the thing is that everybody looks at us different already anyway. We can be
yep,
that artist or we can be a, motivational speaker, but that person maybe has a specific relationship to you and they see you in a different light anyway. So
yep,
I
yeah,
think it's hard to really pinpoint too. And it's like, am I only this thing? Am I only this thing? I'm just a little bit of everything.
yeah. And it's like trying to capture your essence in words in a specific amount of time, right? Like, this can
Yeah.
fill for hours, I'm sure, especially a conversation with us, and also just being aware of
Right.
the time that we have. Um, so
Yeah,
to,
good. You got to be mindful of that because
yeah,
we'll probably keep going.
yeah. But to just be in your expression of yeah, I'm living. And these are the things that are present right now, but from one day to the next, I could ask you tomorrow, tell me about yourself, and it could change tomorrow. Or I could ask you in five
Right.
minutes and it could change. And I
And
think
knowing
that's
me,
part.
it probably will.
Yeah. Okay, we're back. We had technical difficulties. I'll just call it what it is. So we're back here and just kind of going to continue with the flow of things. But we were talking about how from one moment to the next, things can shift and we can say, oh, I'm this in 1 second. And then the next moment it changes. And I think that's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
that is part of this, right? We
Hmm.
are welcome to be whoever we are in whatever moment. And as a reflection of ourselves, not how we think other people, perceive us and view us. So yeah, I appreciate that answer, right? Like you're just living and you're flowing with life and there's all these different things that you want to do. And right now it's like you're very much in real estate, and tomorrow, I mean, you'll still be in real estate, but it could also shift.
Right.
And so
Right. Yeah.
permission for it to change and
I
just
think
flow with
we
however.
we take that for granted too. A lot of people really
Yeah.
don't have that opportunity and are stuck,
Hmm.
in that maybe because of their situation or whatever it might be. So I think that we have here, as a collective, we have the ability to be like, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this today. And I'll probably do this tomorrow. We have that
Yeah.
spectrum and that ability to do that.
Yeah. And I think the perspective you're sharing is beautiful because I don't know that a lot of people choose to see things like that, where it's like I feel like we can get so caught up in the day-to-day sort of like hamster wheel of
Oh yeah.
life that we don't open ourselves up to the possibilities of things shifting. And it's easy and it's safe to stay where we're at. And maybe that's great. And that's what we're meant to do and amazing.
Mhm.
And like what's also on the other side of that. And to be open, like you said, right? You're open to the flow of life and just being really present. And I think that openness is what allows these other things to flow in
Yeah.
if we're willing to see and receive them, and then from there act on them if we choose to.
Yeah.
Yeah, is a beautiful part of this human experience is we get to like exist in the as these massive souls, but like walk the human experience, which is
Right.
ever
And you
evolving,
know,
you know?
we definitely, I can say that I have been there as well, and I tried to confine myself in a box because I thought,
Hmm.
it's more presentable that way. There are more people who are going to approach me if I have this certain thing set in stone. And I realized that honestly, being in the flow and kind of just being like, I have the ability to move around where I need to move around. People
Hmm.
just are drawn to you either way, then that's just
Mm,
what you bring to the table. They want to see the real authentic you, not the cookie cutter, not the thing in the box, because they want to relate. They want to know,
hmm.
like, yeah, it took me a little bit to get there. And, I'm going through that right now. So maybe that's going to help me to get to where I need to go.
Yes. Oh, exactly. And that's, I feel like this is such a big reason of why I started this podcast in the first place is just like when I was going through my awakening and was really in a space of like, I don't know who the fuck I am and
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. And I feel like everything that I thought that I knew about myself is not me at all. And
Right.
and it was just like this spiral. And I'm like, okay, I can't be alone in this, even though at the time I felt very alone. I isolated myself. I felt like no one could possibly understand what I was going through. I didn't really know many people at that point that were, or if they were, they weren't talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of like the seed that was planted for now. Fast forward a few years, like for this podcast to be taking up the space because it's like, dude, we all go through shit. Like we're all going
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
things and
And
being able to
somebody
have
has
the
to talk about it. Somebody has to
yes.
talk about it. And
Yeah.
bravo for coming out and being the person to talk.
Thanks. Thanks. And it's, I don't know. It's almost like there is a choice. I could have chosen not to do this. And part of why I'm here is to use my voice to heal myself and also help to heal other people. And if in any way, anything that I say or someone else says that's on the podcast can like just even give someone like 1% more hope and like 1% more of this awareness of like, oh, wait, other people are going through this too, like all of us are from so many different walks of life. And yes, the people that I'm bringing on, we all have something in common, which is we're very deep within our spiritual practices. And we do have this connection with a higher source. And that's a beautiful thing. And at the same time, not everyone's like that. And it's not all about just that one thing. There's so many other facets to it. And so, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I ramble and go on tangents, and then I'm like, "Oh, this is my
Totally okay.
podcast." I
It's
can
good.
know, but
I
it's fine.
think that's the
I'm
way
like,
it's
wait,
supposed to go, It's the flow of
yes,
things, just what's
yes,
coming up.
yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna guide us in a direction of because I'm talking literally about the podcast right now, and the essence behind it. So the title, "All of You is Welcome." When you hear that or you read it, what comes to mind for you, and what do you feel in your body when you hear "All of You is Welcome"?
I've been waiting for this question only because I know that you ask it from watching your other ones. But yesterday, I asked myself that question, like, all of you is welcome. But when you hear welcome, like when you go over to somebody's house and they're like, welcome. And when they open the
Hmm.
door and that welcome is just like embracing. And if you think about it, somebody opened the door and said immediately, like, all of you is welcome. I
Hmm.
felt like this, like, there's no walls I have to put up. My guard just comes down and I feel welcomed. I feel accepted no matter how I come, even before I come in and start talking or doing anything. Even the
Hmm.
way I'm presented, it makes me really feel welcomed and like loved at the same
Mm,
time.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. Yeah, and I like that analogy of like literally it's like walking through a door
Mm-hmm.
and knowing when you step inside, no matter how you show up, it's perfect. It
Yeah.
all just is perfect as it is. And, I think we have a lot of us are conditioned to think that we need to look a certain way or speak a certain way or act a certain way, or we can only say the nice, fluffy, light love things. And like, that's great. And that has a time and a place. And at the same time, then we're just totally discounting so many other parts of ourselves. Um, and yeah, that's great. I'm glad that you feel that way. It is definitely a space of like, I said in the last episode, I fly by the seat of my pants. I turn red every episode. Like I say like and it just none of it matters. Like literally
Right.
none of it actually
They're
matters
words that
because
we use every day, and
yes,
all of us
yes,
do it. So it's
yeah,
natural, and I totally agree with you. You know, just inviting people to the space, and I think that is the biggest part, and just accepting the challenge. You know, even though like today I had 100 things going on, yesterday I had 100 things going on, but all of me was welcome. So I didn't feel like, oh, you know, I shouldn't do this because I have this and this and this going on. It's more like you should do this because
mm-hmm,
all of you is welcome, and it's okay to, you know, be a little overwhelmed or have 100 things going on. It
mm-hmm,
opens the space also for me to talk about it and air it out instead of confining in that box, you know.
mm-hmm, yeah. And say like I started to feel before the episode, I was like, because I'm just yeah, a lot of things are moving, and I was like observing the overwhelm and probably picking up on some other energies. And
Yeah.
I was like, my human immediately was like, oh, you shouldn't do this today. You shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
record this. Why, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to bring this energy
Right.
into it. And I had to like, I just observed it and I was like, okay, cool, fine. Like I hear you. And this is exactly like you said, exactly why not I should, but exactly why I'm choosing to, because this is the space this is exactly what this space is. And if I, like me as the host, if I'm shying away from the times where I may not feel like I'm at 100% or where I feel like I'm scattered, it's just like, okay, that's totally chill. Let's name it and let's still show up anyway, because maybe that's going to be the most supportive to other people.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. To move
I don't
through
know.
it
Yeah.
instead
Yes.
of
To
just
move
pause at
through
it,
it.
because I feel like a lot of us do that, including myself. I've been one to, get stunted at the door of something, and instead, it's just putting my foot in, but I'm too scared to push it open. Because I'm
Mm.
like, oh man,
Hmm.
this is going on. Is this really the best thing for me? But I won't know until I do it, which is why it
Hmm.
felt so natural to come here and be like, you know what, I'm doing this. Not because I should, but because I really want to. And nothing
Yeah.
should stop me from that if I genuinely want to do something. And what
Yeah.
is it really? Us just coming on the screen and chatting for a little bit and being open?
Yeah. Yeah. And our conversations always flow so beautifully. So that's how I look at it. It's like we're having a conversation. And for us specifically in this space, we've known one another for a very long time. We've seen one another in all different like spaces, and all different parts of ourselves have been exposed, and
Yeah.
we can still meet one another here like a decade and a half later and come with
Bravo.
love. And I know, come with love and laughter and just be like, yeah, man, oh, you're overwhelmed, me too, like cool.
Right, right.
Like
Like it's a part of
great.
life, baby.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just like how we flow. Like, are we going to flow with the overwhelm, or are we going to resist it and shut down and
Right.
pause? And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the pause is good. Sometimes the pause is necessary. I'm
To
not saying to
reflect,
barrel
for
through
sure.
things.
Yeah.
Um, and you can find the moment to pause and not completely stop yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I acknowledge both of us for showing up here when we do have other energies that are swirling around, and still showing up and being like, yeah, all of us is welcome. And we're going to bring that to this space and
Mm-hmm.
move around some of that energy, and just
Right, like
whatever
you can
comes up,
sit
comes
here
up.
at the table with me energy, but you're not going to overwhelm me or take over, because we have
Yeah.
control. And that's something we forget also. The mind is such a tricky place where it's like, you don't want to do that. You don't need to do that, or you're not
Hmm.
prepared for that. You don't know what you're going to say. But really it's just all chatter.
Yeah.
Just got to
Yes.
go. Just got to
Yes.
go, push the door
Hmm.
open, get through it, and yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, the heart, like our heart and our soul, like they know, like it knows. And being in a space where to be open and to make a conscious effort to operate from the heart, like in my opinion, like you can't go wrong with that, like it just from that heart space. And that's where these conversations flow through. Like it's coming from my heart. I can feel it from yours, like our channels are very open. And I think that's such a beautiful thing because the mind is present and it can be, and it has a seat at the table. I'm not trying to shoo it away. And I also recognize that like I'm going to lead from my heart and you have a seat at the table, but you're not like the CEO, like
Exactly.
founder of this, you know, like
I run it, we
yeah,
forget. We forget that we
yeah,
run the show. We let our mind run us. It's
yes,
definitely why a lot of us, even myself again, go into autopilot because it
yeah,
feels more comfortable to let something else have control. But when you need to take the driver's seat and you need to take the wheel, like you just have to find the courage and the strength inside of yourself and remind yourself, like, I love myself enough to do this for me. I can do it
mm-hmm.
for 100 other people. Why can't I do it for myself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, so I'm curious if whatever you're open to sharing, um, I'm thinking of how I want to phrase this, and I give myself permission to pause.
For sure. Whew.
What, if you feel called to share, like a time in your life where maybe your mind was running things, or you were in a space where you were making decisions more from a place of fear, like these fear-based decisions, and maybe kind of looking at yourself not in the lens of like all of me is not welcome. If there's like a specific experience or a time period or whatever really moves through you is beautiful and perfect.
Such a
Yeah.
loaded question because I feel like there are so many periods in my life that I've had where, there was something like stunting me or I'd be, automatically to autopilot. But the first thing that came to my mind was when I had a drug addiction. And it felt so comfortable to be in that high all the time because I wasn't present at all. And I didn't have to worry about what's here, what's now, what's tomorrow, what's the next day. It was more like, I'm going to do this because everything goes away. Nothing, I don't feel anything when I'm here. Um, and I think it was really difficult to get out of that because it felt so good to not care what people thought, not to care about what the next move was going to be, where I was going to stay, who I was going to be. None of that really mattered, but that gave me the most awakening in my life to see myself in that position and know that I was making the choice to run away from
Mm-hmm.
myself, to run away from what was inside and what I was really, really feeling, and then my daughter came, and right after that situation, it was almost coincided with that. And I had to make a lot of choices that, you know, I could say, oh, I regret this, or, that was a silly choice, but I know it was for the best.
Mm-hmm.
And in being so low and being on that autopilot, it helped me to shape into now who I am and what not to do or how not to get back into that place and put myself in a corner because it
Mm-hmm.
felt good to not feel.
Mm-hmm.
So when I stopped doing that, it forced me, no matter what I wanted, it just forced me to dive into my emotions. There was a lot of crying, resentment, guilt, fear. I had to forgive myself for all of those things and not be so torn about who I was and who I could be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to go back to your question again. What was the question? I just don't want to keep rearing off.
No, no, you are perfect. You're answering my question. The question essentially I asked a few different ones in one, but I asked a time in your life where you were moving from a space of fear and where all like you weren't welcoming all parts of yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that was just the biggest part of it. Just not really loving myself enough to give
Mm-hmm.
myself the grace to just live my life. And if I was worried about something, be worried about it. But let it go. It was just a lot of holding on to things and holding on
Mm-hmm.
to things. And we do that a lot here in this lifetime with material things.
Mm-hmm.
Holding on to the book that we never ever read and it's been there for 15 years. Like, go bring it to the thrift shop. I'm a culprit.
Yeah.
I'm a culprit, or the pair of clothes or a pair of jeans that has a rip in it, but I love them so much and I had them since I was 15. And how do they still fit? And I need to keep those things. Like, it needs to go. It's
Yeah.
okay. Some things it's okay to hold on to, I'm not saying
Yeah.
everything, but there are some things that, for the better of yourself. And if you're not utilizing it, then there's no need to hold on to it. And I think,
Mhm.
we all have a lot of baggage. We all live such different lives, and everybody's life has its own difficulty to it. You could be a
Mhm.
millionaire and everybody can see the easiest parts of your life, but nobody gets to see what you're going through at home. Nobody
Mhm.
sees what you're going through with your kids or your spouse or your family, or if you have no
Mhm.
family, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that was part of it too, to really look at the lives around me as well, because my friends were a reflection of me. They
Mhm.
were all doing the same thing and they're not bad for it, but we like created a sphere where it was like, ooh, let's all get comfortable, not worrying about anything and not being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
That's what it was. When you're
Mhm.
in that mind state, it's like you're not uncomfortable anymore. Everything feels good. You could do something
Mhm.
terrible and it would still be like, oh, everything's fine. Like I'm high, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think that, giving all of that up and just changing the trajectory of my life and the direction really just helped me to see who I am and how I present myself and how I want to present myself, how I want to be seen and heard. And
Mhm.
there's so many different ways to do that. And I think we learn every day how to just keep opening that door and
Mhm.
figuring out, what we're here for. Who am I?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, we've talked about this a few times, and I feel like, and each time I hear you speak about, and that's just like a fraction of the things that you've walked through.
Yeah.
Um, it like makes me emotional because to know the things that you have walked through in this life and to see you standing here now, um, is I don't even have a word that encompasses it. It's honestly it's incredible. Um, because for a lot of people that's not the case, and I'm just so proud of you and I admire you. Um, for one being so open and vulnerable, thank you for sharing that. Um, because I know that there are a lot of people that either were or still are in the throes of their suffering and their addiction, and um it's something for me that's really close to my heart, with a lot of like family, and it's very deep in my um like ancestry, this like addiction. And so yeah, I just like I appreciate you sharing, and just want you to know that yeah, you're incredible, and the way that
Thank
you
you
move
so
through
much.
life is yeah. um
Well, I appreciate you too because
yeah.
you've been through a lot of my journey with me for a long time. We've been friends. We've known each other since high school.
Mhm.
And, the roads have shifted, but you've always remained an amazing friend to me. And you really just provide me with so much in just being my friend. And I love you so much for everything that you've been able to help me with, even by just talking to me or saying, like, hey, it's going to be okay, or
Mhm.
sending me a quote here and there. I'm just reminded that I'm loved in so many ways by so many great
Mhm.
people, but you are definitely one of those people. And thank you, because without that support, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Mhm.
With the support from everyone that I've gotten over time. And, thank you to all of you people as well, because, even the people watching, that is support in a form.
Yeah.
They're supporting you, they're supporting me. It's a beautiful thing. And I
Yeah.
know, sometimes when people are struggling, it's hard for us to support them because we're like, man, they could be doing better. I wish they were doing this instead and not doing this
Mhm.
stupid thing. And,
Mhm.
but real, true, authentic love doesn't care about that. They care about you genuinely and your
Mhm.
well being and your health and
Mhm.
loving you.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty that I've gotten in friends like you. So it's really hard to find. It's hard to come across, but it does exist.
Well, I love you too. And yeah, I just keep like I'm just in awe. That's what you shared. I'm so blessed that that's what flowed through you, because I know that there are people that need to hear this and to see someone that's walked through that and, made the choice to come from the other side of it. And that's not me. I'm not belittling your experience or anyone that is in the depths of their addiction, like it's not like it's an easy thing to come out of it, or
Hard.
like,
It's hard. You have to really want it. You got to
yeah,
dig, you got to crawl, you have to get yourself out of there. It's not easy.
yeah,
I'm not saying like, I know everybody's story is different and the way that they handle things, but it's doable. It's definitely
yeah,
doable. And if you need support, like even writing myself or Ashley, like if you're struggling personally, I open this to you as well to reach out, because I love talking to people, and no, I may not have all the answers, but I can listen. I'm good
yeah,
at listening. And that
you are,
sometimes is just exactly what someone needs.
yeah. And so what, for those people that may be suffering, or just really for anyone, it doesn't need to just be to those people. What are like what pulled you out of that? Like what was that, was there a moment, or was there something, like things that happened in your life at the time that you were like, okay, this needs to stop and I'm choosing differently? Um yeah, I want to start there, and then I have a follow-up question, but we'll start with that first.
Okay. So I think that there were two things. Um, when I had my daughter. I found out when I was 8 months pregnant. It's a really long story. We're not going to go all the way in there, but just that right there, I spiraled pretty hard right after that. After I gave birth, and, I started doing drugs immediately, because I was like, I can't even think about what I had to do just now. And she's here and she's healthy and beautiful and wonderful. I just want to say that. But, that right there at first, when I started doing drugs again after I had her, I just kept thinking about how she was going to say in the future if I ever died, or, because I was doing so much drugs. And I just thought about how she would be like, yeah, well, that was my mom. Like, she really just couldn't handle life, and she was addicted to drugs, and whatever else came with that. But I kept thinking about her. And then I got into a car accident like a couple of months after that. And just the situation of that car accident, and you know I don't want to really get into that either, but
It's
just
okay.
how I was left there, I realized that I only had myself. I
Hmm.
only had myself to pick myself up and to really want better for my life. And how I got out of it, I had to quit cold turkey, which was just very difficult. You're
Hmm.
just itching for something, you want to be outside, but the car accident kind of helped me. Even though it almost killed me, it saved my life,
Hmm.
because I had no choice. They said, listen, you're going to keep smoking, you're going to keep doing drugs, you're going to die.
Hmm.
That's just it. They didn't sugarcoat it, they didn't say anything else. They're just like, you need to take the steps you need to take to get to where you want to go. That's what I
Hmm.
heard. And
Hmm.
meditation, journaling, that became, you know, the forefront of things. My friend at the time who I was living with, she guided me to help me to start doing meditation through the Headspace app. And I just started dedicating myself to that, because I had so much mind chatter. And I thought, like, I don't know how to meditate, I got to sit down and be quiet. Like, how am I going to do that? You know? Um, but with taking the time and sitting with myself and letting myself hear that chatter, I realized I'm telling myself the same stuff every single day. Like, we have so many conversations in our head in one day that we have the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And
Hmm.
I just had to get it all out. So through that process, it started to become less and less chatter and more
Hmm.
mindfulness and more connecting with my breath and my body, and getting to experience the life that we are actually given. And I think
Hmm.
that was really what just was like, whoa, there's so much more than, doing drugs and sitting in a room, in the dark and not doing anything.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think that, my daughter and just almost losing my life multiple times really was just like, God has a purpose for me here. He
Hmm.
wants me to be here. He hasn't taken me out of the picture yet. So there must be something big for me to paint here. And I'm still learning that, I'm still learning that on this journey. I haven't figured it out fully yet, but I know that it's always in the works, and I'm surrounded by ways to help lift me there. Even
Mm-hmm.
by doing this podcast, by, sharing things on Instagram or Facebook, or talking to people in the streets and just socializing and communicating with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sharing your story, or not just you, but everyone, just sharing and speaking. Like, there's so much power and liberation in speaking and sharing their story, and not for anyone else, but for ourselves, and letting that go, not holding on to
Yeah.
it all, and just giving it the space for it to come out and to just exist and dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't take away from the time in your life that you moved through. Like, you were just surrounded by darkness, literally, figuratively, in all of the senses. You were in the dark, and it's not diminishing that, but it's also not giving that. That's not who you are. That is not
Mm-hmm.
the totality of your story. Is not the sum of all of the trauma that you've been through. It
Right.
is so much more than that, and it's continuing to be written and unfolds every day to where you are now, where you can speak about these things
Mm-hmm.
on a platform like this and share your story openly for yourself, and then for others as well. And I think I admire it. It's so beautiful. And, something that I've noticed and observed in my own journey and talking to friends and family and through this podcast is, a lot of us have these moments where it's like a life or death situation.
Yeah.
And not everyone, that's not, I don't want to speak in absolutes, not everyone has those moments. Sometimes the awakening is a lot softer and more
Right. Right. For
gentle,
sure.
which is beautiful, and that's amazing. And there are a lot of us that it was sort of just like, you need to wake up, and whatever, it's just going to keep kind of getting
Yeah.
worse and worse
Exactly.
until you wake up. And like, it's so clear to me, knowing you, like, you are meant to be here. You are meant to be existing right now. And there's so much, you just being you and being present is magic in and of itself. And like, as you continue to step into the vastness of your soul, it's just going to continue to become, like, it's going to be even more magic. And I'm excited to witness it, and um like, continue to co-create and weave through life with you. Yeah, it's an honor. um and there was another question I wanted to ask you about how, so you had these, like, almost like, literally, like, near death experiences,
Yeah.
kind of it forced you and jolted you awake. um
And
and I'm
I
so
had
grateful.
multiple of
Multiple.
those, which is just
Hmm.
so. I just want to remind everybody that we put ourselves back in the cycle by doing some of the same old things that we continue to do. And like the
Hmm.
cosmic washer machine, it's just going to do the same thing to you. It's going to keep cycling you. You're going to get out for a second and you could go to the dryer, but you'll probably go back to the washer and have to
Hmm.
cycle through it again until you understand the lesson and you
Yeah.
understand what is there for you to learn.
Yeah.
I've
Hmm.
literally cracked my head open maybe 4 times, and, things just kept happening. There were totally different scenarios, but some of the things leading up to that were the same. And in journaling
Hmm.
and going back and being able to read through it, I could see the pattern. I'm like,
Hmm.
man, I go through this every February. Like, what the heck?
Hmm.
Every
Hmm.
winter, I'm doing the same thing. Every season is the same. So I had to change the narrative. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm starting to see this repetitive action in myself, and you have to give yourself grace and gratitude that, yeah, you went through some hard stuff and you got
Hmm.
through it. Like, how
Yeah.
amazing is that? How
Yeah.
amazing is that you pulled yourself out, or people helped you to get there and you stuck to it, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I'm really grateful that you were able to move yourself out of that space through your choices that you made and support from other people. And I also recognize that, not everyone, that's not everyone's journey.
Yeah.
And so just taking a moment to acknowledge that and send those people like a lot of love, who may be still in the throes of their addiction or in their suffering or whatever that looks like for
Yeah.
them. Yeah, just want to send love for a second.
For all of you
And
guys, all of you
yeah,
guys. I know in some extent,
yeah,
the world is really crazy right now. So I can only imagine,
yeah.
we are all suffering in a sense together, but there's great joy still.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I do understand. Yes, sending love to those people for sure, because I know it's
Hmm.
hard. It's hard.
Hmm. And are there things, so you made the choice, you stopped cold turkey, and there have been a lot of moments since then, right? And I'm sure there have been other challenges and things that have shown up in your life where, yeah, maybe it could have been easier to just, yeah, maybe just one
Yeah.
time I'll do this, So
Mhm.
what are there tools? Are there things you mentioned journaling and meditating? And those are amazing
I
practices.
do recommend to. I did therapy
Okay.
for maybe 3 years, and it was just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people I was working with were amazing, and that's in Jersey City, by the way. So if anybody is interested, I believe it's right across from Christ Hospital. There's a building there,
Mm-hmm.
and they just give a lot of assistance. In many different ways. They have like,
Mm-hmm.
AA and all types of stuff to help you stop with addiction and stuff. And it's also a drug free program. So,
Mm-hmm.
in me being in therapy, I got drug tested every week.
Mm.
So it was like, okay, if I want to continue doing therapy and getting this help that I love so much, I have to be disciplined in my own actions too. I think discipline plays a really big part in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting, I know sometimes we'll want better, but it's really hard to actually do it. Of course, easier said than done kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
Um, but I think that's something that really plays a role. You have to dedicate yourself to wanting to do and be better, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
easy. But I think the little tools in between, the meditation or the journaling or even the therapy, those things are so helpful. Even though they're like small periods or small windows, they you can go back to them again and
Mm-hmm.
again. The conversation, the feeling that you got,
Mm-hmm.
the experience.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for I didn't even finish the question. You just you,
It
you
was
you
just
just
right
went
in
with
my
it.
mind, so
I
I
know.
had
I
to
know.
say it right before. I was like, let me get this out.
No, I knew that I mean, yeah,
I'm
like
sorry.
we can
I'm
we can
totally not trying to cut you
no.
off.
Oh my gosh. No, no, no. That wasn't no, the point of me saying like calling
All
you
is
out on
welcome,
that
and I
is
talk over you all the time.
you talk over me all the time. Literally, it happens quite often and it's a beautiful reflection because I
Vice versa.
that yeah, literally. So it's fine. We're all good. It's okay. And we can communicate like telepathically, so it's like we're already kind of a few steps ahead. Like um no, that was perfect. And I think thank you for sharing that resource. That's great for anyone that's in um New Jersey and the Jersey City area, even in Hudson County, or there,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there are other
Anywhere.
spaces outside of there,
Oh yeah, for
that do
sure.
offer
Hoboken
that.
has. I think a lot of the hospitals. If you go to the hospitals, you can actually get the references from directly from there, or
Yeah.
even just in your town or city. You can even Google it and check out what things they offer. Because I started was a free program. I really wish I could remember the name of it. But it was in the Heights in Jersey City, and it was 1 month just to test out if you liked therapy or not. And it was just
Hmm.
4 weeks. You go one time a week, and the person that I was working with there did art therapy with me, and I think that really was
Oh.
what was like. I was like, whoa, like
Hmm.
some of the things that I was putting on paper. She was like, well, this actually represents this, and you keep putting people with their backs showing and not their face. And she's like, you're
Hmm.
like hiding yourself, and that was just something I was like, what? Like, how did you get that through
Hmm.
a little picture that I made?
Hmm.
It was
Yeah.
pretty incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great, yeah, again, thank you for sharing that. That's a good resource. Not even just if you're not in New Jersey, really anywhere, just looking.
Yeah, anywhere. Yeah,
There are resources out there that are free, that are
yeah,
free.
for sure.
And um, even some of the things that you said, like meditating and journaling and
Yeah,
meditation, I like to say this, that doesn't mean you have to sit there and just like with your legs crossed for an hour to reach this enlightenment space. You can meditate
right.
really doing anything as long as
Yeah.
you're present
It
with
could
what
be
you're
five
doing.
minutes. It could be
Yeah.
10 minutes. If you're just setting an intention beforehand, like, hey, my
Hmm.
intention is to get through 5 minutes of this meditation. It could
Hmm.
be that simple because that's how it starts. I was not doing hour-long meditations in the beginning. I was fidgety for 10 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, like, am I doing this
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
then gradually it just increased. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to get into the flow of things. And that's what anything. You start
Hmm.
working at a new job, you don't immediately know what you're supposed to do. They give you guidelines, they give
Yeah.
you time to get accustomed to what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
It's a
Yeah.
practice. It's a
Yeah. Yeah.
meditation practice. Journaling is a
Mhm.
practice. It's
Yep.
these tools that, we speak of it because we've been doing these things. We journal, we meditate, we have other self-care techniques that we have been practicing over time. And so for anyone that's like, I've never meditated, I've never journaled, beautiful. That is so great. Now you have the opportunity to start something new if you choose to. And, you know, an
And you can
invitation
start
to give your
small. It can start so
yeah,
small. It doesn't have to be this extended. It could really be like 3 minutes. It could be
yeah,
2 minutes, and you're just breathing and, going up and down, counting your breaths. Because that I found doing that, counting your breath in the beginning was very helpful because I couldn't get out of my head so much.
hmm
But it helped me to stay focused on one thing and just
yeah,
like, okay, I'm focusing on my breathing. So that's what I'm going to be doing for this 2 minutes, you know?
yeah. And like invitation to just start. And also, it's a practice that it takes time, like anything else. I think
Yeah.
that's another part of this, of especially Western culture. It's like this instant gratification, and it's something that I'm moving through myself, of just giving myself grace and checking myself really at the door and humbling myself of like, you can't, like, I want to start rock climbing and I know how I am. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to be mad at myself because I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to be the best person rock climbing in there. And it's like,
Right.
okay, like, calm down. Okay. You've literally never done it. And have fun, have fun in the experience. And,
I think we forget about that a lot. It's
yes,
have fun,
yes,
enjoy yourself,
yes.
make the experience immersive enough for you to enjoy it and to come
Yeah.
back again and say, hey, this felt good. I can do this again. And I can
Yeah.
keep learning and building, like all the greats, like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, like they didn't just wake up out of the womb shooting hoops. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It took them a little time to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You
Just
gotta have that Mamba mentality.
permission to just be graceful and take it easy, and
Yes.
um, utilize the resources that are out there. And there's so many of them, and we are in an age of technology where literally everything is at our fingertips. Um, and so, yeah, just utilizing whatever is there. And, you said it earlier, Chastity, like also reaching out to us. We're here, we don't know everything. We may not have all of the answers, but even just being someone that can hold the space and provide support, and you know even just be a reminder that you're not alone, um because we all are walking through different things. Yes, I've walked through my own stuff and you've walked through your stuff, and here we are having these conversations, and it's beautiful. And at the same time, the healing is a continuous process, and we're ever evolving on this journey. And it may seem like, I feel like some people listen to this and have this perception of like me having it all together. And I'm like, I had a meltdown like 5 minutes ago, like I just,
Yeah.
I cry every other
We're
day.
human too, man.
Yeah, yeah. Like we're
There may
human
be
and it's
times we
beautiful.
seem superhuman, but that's just us trying to do our best
Yeah,
and really just living it up to the fullest when we have the opportunity to do so. And then also doing the same thing when we don't. Living in the
yeah,
moment of like, "Ah, I'm overwhelmed. But okay,
yeah.
that's it. It was just a moment. It's not permanent. Like, it's not the end of the world. It may
hmm
feel like it in that moment. And trust me, like 2 days ago, yesterday, I don't know. I was there. But I'm like, this is just a feeling. This is temporary. It's
hmm
temporary. And it's
Yeah.
not going to last forever because I can choose to pull myself out of here. And again, I
hmm
know it's much easier said than done, but it takes practice like any good
Yeah.
thing. So, just trying your best and being
Trying your
easy on
best.
yourself. Yeah, because you're a baby every time you go into a new experience. When I started meditating, I was a baby. When I started journaling, I was a baby. When I
hmm
started riding a bike, I was a baby. When I started
hmm
rollerblading, I was a baby. In my
hmm
my mind, I had no idea how
hmm
to do that thing. I had to really train myself to do it and get accustomed and try again and fall and scrape my knee and break
Yeah.
a pinky. I've done that a few times. Not fun, but gotta go through it sometimes.
Yeah. And just, I have this tattooed on my arm with one of my best friends, like 1%. And it's just the reminder to show up each day, just even if it's 1% with 1% more love or hope or conviction, joy, whatever that looks like for you. It's a reminder that it's not meant to be perfect. We don't need to be 100% on it all the time. It can just take that 1% of a shift in, okay, you know what? Today I'm going to try to meditate for 2 minutes. And tomorrow, maybe I try again for 2 minutes. And that is the 1%, is continuing to
Yeah.
try that.
Mm-hmm.
But taking the pressure off and just realizing that we don't have to do monumental things to see change in our lives. It can just be these small little things and these small moments that then over time, the more we do it, they compound on top of one another. And
And it's beautiful because you don't even
yeah,
realize that it's
yep,
happening when it's happening. And you're like,
yep,
whoa, hold on. I feel different. Things are
yeah,
different.
yeah,
My outside is starting to match what I'm feeling inside. And that's another thing, when we're struggling, we've talked about this. What's going on in here is right there in front of you. You're watching it every single day,
yeah,
you know?
yep, yeah, yeah. No, it's true. I have moments all the time where I like, I'm in a space in my life right now where I am I mean, blessed always, but just like so much abundance and joy and love. And I'm like I have a second, I'm like, how did I get here? Like I pinch myself really. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? Where am I? Like I'm like, what am I doing? How did I even arrive here? Because it feels like it was just yesterday that I was in a space where I was perpetuating my suffering and there was no end in sight. And so now I'm here and I'm like, oh shit, okay,
Right.
we
Like,
did it.
whoa.
That's cool. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's possible and it's a journey and just giving yourself grace and having fun, and it may sound like, I don't want it to sound like I won't speak for you. I don't want it to sound like I'm being dismissive of the trauma and the suffering and the pain and
Same here.
the
Same
things
here.
that go
I
on.
understand. Yeah.
And at the same time, the choice is there and it is possible to shift. Okay. And we're back. Another little technical thing. That's so funny. Anyway, I was saying that it's not to be dismissive of the pain and the suffering that people are walking through. And it's also a reminder, like this is all just a reminder that we do have the choice and there is the in this human experience we have the duality, and so the other side of this pain can be joy and the other side of the fear is love. And we we have the choice to just take a second and even just again the 1%, even if we just have a 1% shift towards
100%.
joy and a 1% shift towards love, and we just 1% more keep shifting in that direction,
Mm-hmm.
then we arrive here where it's like, oh, even in the midst of suffering and deep loss and horrible shit, I still feel love and I still feel peace. And that's a culmination of things over time.
Mm-hmm.
And also in the process, just like, let's have fun. Let's just have
Yeah.
fun. And whatever that looks like for you, this is fun for me. I had a great time. I appreciate you sharing space with me and being here. And I love you so much.
I love you too, and this was amazing. I'm so grateful and honored to be here. I'm happy that everything just kind of flowed the way that it should have, and you know, um, yeah. I also want to remind people the same thing. We're not being dismissive of anybody's story or anything that anyone has
Mm-hmm.
ever been through, because everybody's story again is just unique to them and the things that they go through. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand how difficult it can be to move through situations in your life to get to where you want to be, but
Mm-hmm.
again, we're just here to remind you guys that it's possible. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give
Mm-hmm.
up on those people around you who are looking up to you, because you never know.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably someone really young, or a brother, a sister, an aunt, somebody who really looks up to you and
Mm-hmm.
wants to see you do great things in this life, and just know that you are capable of doing that stuff. You are
Mm-hmm.
great and beautiful and wonderful, and yeah.
Yeah. And before we close out, we are not our stories. They are part of us and they are the journey, but when we become so identified with the story, that's when we can get lost in it and
Oh
fall
yeah.
victim to the things happening around us. You and I and all of us, we are so much more than the stories that some
So
have
much
been
more.
created for us and some that we create. And so, yeah, just taking a step outside of that and realizing that we are all just this unconditional love, and
Mhm.
that
And
can't
love
be
yourself.
contained.
I have a
Yeah.
tattoo that says you must love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a really long time to do that,
Mm-hmm.
because I was so focused on giving everything else and everyone else more attention than I ever gave myself. But when I
Yeah.
learned how to love me a little bit more, it was much easier to love everyone else and everything else 1,000
Mhm.
times more.
Mhm. Yeah. And on that note, I love myself first, and I also love you.
I love myself first, and I also love you so much. This was great. This was so much fun. I look forward to doing it again because I'm sure there will be a time.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for being here and checking out this week's episode. I am truly grateful for your continued support, which allows this podcast to keep moving forward. If you feel the call, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's deeply appreciated. Until next time, let us continue to hold space for our shadows and allow our light to shine.